Good morning, everyone. It's Friday, June 5th. I'm Stephanie Haney. Thank you for joining me here for 3 News Now. This is where we give you your top headlines from WKYC.com and our WKYC app, letting you know everything that's going on in Northeast Ohio, also around the country and around the world as it impacts us here in Ohio. Today on social media and many other places, you'll be hearing a lot about the name Breonna Taylor. So let's just start by reminding people, if you're not familiar with the story of Breonna Taylor, who she is. She is a black woman who was shot to death on March 13th, 2020, and today would have been her birthday. She died at the age of 26, and she would have been 27 years old today. She was fatally shot by Louisville Metro Police. Breonna Taylor is just one of the names that we're hearing when we talk about the killing of George Floyd, which is something that we've all been having conversations about lately. So she was killed 2 months ago when police broke down her door with a no-knock warrant. And the significance is that with a no-knock warrant, the police do not have to announce that they're entering. They don't have to announce that they're police. So this was in the middle of the night. There was gunfire, and they shot her 8 times and killed her. To let people know the status of her case right now, on May 21st, the FBI in Louisville, the Louisville office of the FBI, announced they were opening an investigation into the circumstances surrounding her death. However, there have been no charges in the case. The police officers who were involved were placed on administrative leave, and they remain on administrative leave at this time. Her family has also filed a wrongful death lawsuit, but again, no charges has been filed. So today we celebrate the life of Breonna Taylor on what would have been her 27th birthday. An update in the George Floyd case. If you're not aware, there were new charges filed against Derek Chauvin. His charges have been elevated to second-degree murder. This is something that falls under the felony murder rule, where if a murder is committed during the commission of a felony, that elevates the charges. So now Derek Chauvin faces up to 40 years in prison, which is a significant increase from the sentencing he could have faced if convicted under the initial charges. This is also significant in my personal legal opinion because it acknowledges the fact that the assault of George Floyd itself was a felony crime that Chauvin could have been convicted of. So not just the fact that it resulted in death, but the actual assault of George Floyd itself was a crime, which could have far-reaching implications for the way the Minneapolis Police Department handles things moving forward, as there's lots of conversation about what will be happening with that police department in the city of Minneapolis. The other 3 officers involved have also been charged with aiding and abetting. They do also face up to 40 years in prison if convicted of that. They had their first appearance, and lots of conversation was made about the fact that multiple of them were junior level officers. One of them apparently was only on their 3rd shift on the job, another one about a year on the force. And there was conversation at that appearance that one of those officers apparently said to Derek Chauvin, "We can't do this." Now, it's not clear at this time whether that statement was captured on camera. Here in Cleveland, the curfew has officially ended. It ended at 6 a.m. this morning, and Mayor Frank Jackson has said he does not intend to renew that curfew as long as protests remain peaceful. He said during a teleconference on Thursday that we will review what's going on, and hopefully that will be the end of the curfew. Here's another quote from Frank Jackson. "As you know, we still have demonstrations going on, but they've been very peaceful so far. As long as they stay that way, then there should be no curfew instituted. If we have to do it, then we will, but that's not our preference to do that." Mayor Jackson said that city officials will continue to evaluate and assess the situation as it evolves and decide if another curfew does need to be activated, and if that is the case, it will be done very quickly. Cleveland Police Chief Calvin Williams echoed the same thing, saying that they plan to remain vigilant. They know there are a few things going on in the next couple of days, and if the protests do turn violent or aggressive in any way, then another curfew will be instituted. Today, President Donald Trump is addressing unemployment numbers in the United States. The U.S. unemployment rate unexpectedly, if you ask economic experts, fell to 13.3% in May. It was 14.7% in June. 2.5 million new jobs were added. This is surprising in the midst of this pandemic, but as things have started to gradually reopen, new hirings have increased jobs here in the U.S. So that suggests that has been helpful to the economy. The number of people applying for unemployment benefits has declined for 9 straight weeks as well. And the total number receiving aid has sort of leveled off right now. There's about 21 million people receiving unemployment benefits in the country. Here in Ohio, we do still have people who are awaiting those benefits. If you are one of those people, you are encouraged to continue to go to unemploymenthelp.ohio.gov, as people who are eligible for unemployment benefits will be able to get them backdated because of the extreme number of people who have been applying. So because that system has been backlogged, you won't be subject to the usual limitations of not being able to get those benefits until the moment you file. The overall job cuts, however, have increased economic disparities that have disproportionately hurt minorities and people who don't have higher levels of education. So though the unemployment rate for white Americans in May was 12.4%, it actually rose for Black Americans. For Black Americans, that unemployment rate for the month of May is 16.8%, a devastating figure. Even higher for Hispanic Americans at 17.6%. Even with these surprising gains in May, it will take months for all of the work that's been lost in April and March for those people to find work again. And some economists are now forecasting that the rate could remain in double digits through the November elections and into 2021. Many people saying that the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic will be far-reaching and it will take years for us to return to a situation when it comes to our unemployment numbers across the country that we were seeing before COVID-19 hit the U.S. so dramatically. On Twitter today, Twitter has removed a tweet from President Donald Trump that included a George Floyd tribute video. They put a label on the video posted by an account under the username @TeamTrump that says this media has been disabled in response to a claim by the copyright owner. The video was still up on Trump's YouTube channel. It includes pictures of George Floyd, whose death we know sparked these widespread protests. Many are crediting that with the charging of the police officers involved. Twitter said in a statement, "Per our copyright policy, we respond to valid copyright complaints sent to us by a copyright owner or their authorized representatives." It did not say who made the complaint. President Donald Trump has been in a war of words with Twitter. Last month, the company placed fact-checked warnings on 2 tweets from President Donald Trump after tweeting accounts and statements about mail-in ballots, calling mail-in ballots, quote, fraudulent, and predicting problems with the November U.S. election if widespread mail-in ballots are to be used. So under those tweets, there is now a link that reads, "Get the facts about mail-in ballots," and that guides users to Twitter Moments page where there are fact checks and news stories about what exactly mail-in ballots are, how they're used, and the process by which people can receive a mail-in ballot. Let's take a look at the numbers from yesterday for COVID-19 here in the state of Ohio. If we want to look at this in a broad scope, the number of new cases reported yesterday was up again yesterday. However, the other numbers, deaths, hospitalizations, and ICUs were down, although the number of new deaths reported yesterday was down by just 1. So the number of new COVID-19 cases reported on Thursday was 490. That's an increase every single day, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday this week. On Monday, we started with 471 new cases reported, down to 366 on Tuesday, but since Tuesday, it's gone up every single day. 442 new cases reported on Wednesday and 490 new cases reported on Thursday, bringing the total number of cases in Ohio dating all the way back to March 9th to now 37,282. The total number of new deaths reported yesterday was 40, which is down from 41 new deaths reported on Wednesday, and that's down from 52 new deaths reported on Tuesday, bringing the total number of deaths in Ohio to now 2,339 related to COVID-19. That, again, is dating all the way back to March 9th. The number of new hospitalizations yesterday was also down. There were 61 new hospitalizations reported yesterday. That's down from 75 on Wednesday. So we've got 1 day of down numbers in terms of the hospitalizations because the Wednesday numbers were up from the previous day. So the total number of hospitalizations related to COVID-19 is now 6,312 here in the state of Ohio. When we look at the ICU admissions, those were also down yesterday. There were 19 new ICU admissions reported yesterday, down from 21 on Wednesday. So 1 day of a decrease in new ICU admissions because the number on Wednesday was up from what was reported on Tuesday, bringing the total number of ICU admissions related to COVID-19 dating all the way back to March 9th here in Ohio to now 1,623. Now, when we're talking about COVID-19, the CDC director does have concerns that Americans are not following public health protocols. This comes while testifying in front of the House Appropriations Subcommittee on the federal government's coronavirus response. Dr. Robert Redfield said that it is incredibly important that people wear masks. This was when he was asked by Representative Lucille Royal Allard, who's a Democratic from California. He said he's very concerned about large groups of people protesting, which is something that we've seen Dr. Amy Acton, our director of the Ohio Department of Health, say here in Ohio. Redfield warned people that they do need to continue keeping that safe physical distance as we approach the fall and a potential second wave of COVID-19 across the country. Redfield said, "We continue to try to figure out how to penetrate the message with different groups and how to get that message through to people." He continued to say, "When I go home to the Baltimore area, I don't see anybody without a mask, but a lot of times I walk through Washington, D.C., I see a lot of people without a mask." Now, as we've been looking at the protest footage that's been happening around the country, we have seen many people across the country in these major cities wearing masks. Here in Cleveland, we saw the footage from that. There were a lot of people wearing masks. It has been stressed that if you are going to be in these mass gatherings, it's highly important to wear a mask, especially if you're going to be in a situation where you're talking loudly, where you're talking with force, where those droplets that carry COVID-19 have more of a chance of spreading, moving further as you use more force with your voice. So do keep that in mind as we move into the late summer and the fall, and a potential COVID-19 spike could possibly be coming. Here in Ohio, Kings Island has filed a lawsuit against Dr. Amy Acton, demanding to be able to immediately reopen. If you remember, gyms did this as well a couple of weeks ago, and they were essentially ordered that they could reopen without penalty. That was just a couple of days before they were supposed to be permitted to reopen anyway by the governor. But Cedar Fair, which owns both Kings Island and Cedar Point, has now filed a lawsuit seeking to be able to open immediately. Now, Cedar Fair was not specifically mentioned as a plaintiff in the complaint, but the company has thrown its support behind House Bill 665, which, besides addressing amusement rights safety, would also allow the parks to reopen immediately. So Cedar Fair, which owns Kings Island and Cedar Point in Sandusky, says that it can operate both parks safely and with proper distancing guidelines in place. In the lawsuit, Kings Island claims that Dr. Acton has overstated the severity of the COVID-19 pandemic, even with a virtual nationwide shutdown. So something to keep in mind, however, is that COVID-19 has killed more than 109,000 Americans. And if you're comparing that to flu seasons in the past, that's a greater number of people killed related to COVID-19 as compared to the flu than in every single flu season, except for 2 of them over the last 100 years. And keep also in mind that flu seasons run typically from October to May, so that's about 7 months, and we have been dealing with COVID-19 to the point that we've been tracking it for about 3 months. So we have already surpassed the number of flu deaths in all but 2 flu seasons in the last 100 years in less than half the time. Just something to keep in mind as people are looking for ways to conceptualize how COVID-19 compares to the flu, although many experts also saying we should not be comparing COVID-19 to the flu because we know a lot about the flu and we know very little about COVID-19. Yesterday, Governor Mike DeWine did not have a press conference, but he did release information about new things that will reopen, and that includes the Pro Football Hall of Fame down in Canton, in my hometown. So in accordance with DeWine's order to reopen some of the state's zoos, museums, and other entertainment facilities, the Pro Football Hall of Fame will be back open on June 10th, next week. That's just 5 days away. David Baker, who is the president and CEO of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, said this: "We stand ready to provide inspiration to fans eager to celebrate excellence, and we will do so in a responsible manner that puts the safety of the visiting public and our dedicated staff at the forefront of each decision we have made." They continued to say, "In reaching this point, and that we will continue to make moving forward. So in order to protect guests and staff members will be placing markings throughout the museum. This will help guests maintain proper physical distancing as they move through the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and also give them a one-way flow through the exhibits. There will also be acrylic barriers installed in several areas. Guests are also being reminded not to touch the exhibits, and there will also be hand sanitizing stations throughout the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Here are the other things that have been permitted to reopen on June 10th, again, just 5 days away. Aquariums, art galleries, country clubs, ice skating rinks, indoor family entertainment centers, indoor sports facilities, laser tag facilities, indoor movie theaters, museums, outdoor playgrounds, public recreation centers, roller skating rinks, social clubs, trampoline parks, and zoos. That is quite the list. We also have that on our Instagram page. We have that all broken down in a nice graphic created by one of our digital producers, Kiara Cotton, so you can check that out. Of course, that's where you're watching us right now. Our Instagram handle is WKYC3 if you're catching this on another platform. That is it for our early update for 3 News Now on Friday, June 5th. We'll be back here at 2 p.m. as soon as we get the updated numbers in from the Ohio Department of Health related to COVID-19 and how that's impacting us here in the state of Ohio. I'll see you back here in just a little bit. I'm Stephanie Haney.